Hello and welcome back to another episode of the National League Natter podcast. On today's episode, it's going to be the Matchday 6 review. And as always on the review show, I'm joined by the Oldham man himself, Mr. Aaron. How are you, mate?
Hello, Christoph. I'm doing okay. I gather you're probably doing a little bit better than me today, to be fair, for reasons we'll get onto very, very shortly. I mean, it's very kind of strange to me because, for all intents and purposes, after the deadline day live stream last night, I wasn't supposed to be here today. But I thought, you know what, I'll just leave you with one little bit of parting gift before I fly to Vegas in the morning. So we're gonna box it off now and then it's done then, isn't it? So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into the action as always.
Well, we appreciate you coming on even when you're in Vegas in about 24 hours' time. But moving on to the action, we're going to start with my boys as I'm going to go through the game. We thrashed Tamworth 7-0 at the Hive, and it was the Zach Brunt show. He was unbelievable, and look, it was a really strong performance. After the setback on Monday, I think we were really going into the game needing a really solid performance, and I think that's exactly what we did. Look, we were, from minute one, we were zipping the ball about straight away, and once you see the highlights, Zach Brunt's first and his second goal were unbelievable. One tiki-taka move with Harry Chapman for the first goal, slotting it past the goalkeeper, and the second just inside the box, half volley in the top right corner. It's
Brilliant.
unbelievable. And look, I'm really happy from our perspective as we've got our goal difference now back into positive,
Yeah.
which really helps. And yeah, I was just impressed with how we played. And look, if we can go up to Gateshead next week and do something similar, I think we'll get a good result. So
I
yeah,
think
really happy.
I'm not gonna lie. If you turn on that type of performance against Gateshead, then I think the whole division's on notice for the rest of the season. To be honest, Chris, the only things I would say is that 7-0 was probably quite a surprise. Don't get me wrong, but I feel kind of bit like vindicated a little bit because I've been saying for weeks, Barnet once Barnet click, they'll click. You know what I mean? Like you will click eventually, and I wonder whether this is kind of just the bit of the turning point where you've come on. Yes, obviously, no disrespect to Tamworth, but it is only Tamworth. They are probably predicted to go straight back down from this division and struggle. So there is that maybe little 1% mark against it, but anyone winning 7-0 on a weekend, you've got to stand up and applaud that. And look, like you said, there's that Brunshaw hat trick for him. I just wanted to speak to you a little bit from a Tamworth persuasion as well. Well, actually, answer my question. What I just said there about the players clicking. Are you confident that this can be sort of like this can be like Barnet's season has started now? You've actually like laid down foundation there.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Look, we made a couple changes. Joe Ride made his first appearance for the club and looked solid at the back. Because we've got quite a few injuries at the moment. Obviously, Adi Aluwo played in the second half, I think, for about 20 minutes, and Danny Collins is still out. So look, I think we're using the whole squad that is needed, which is important. Which we probably should have done on Monday, but that's a different thing anyway. But no, I would agree. I think we're just getting into our stride a little bit, and to win 7-0 against any team, irrelevant of how Tamworth were, no disrespect to them, but to win 7-0 gives confidence to the players and to the staff that they're doing the right things right. And then you don't know how we can kick on after this result. Look, I think the aim is for us to be promoted. That's been set by the club and by the fans as well, that this is our time to go out of the Football League, back to the Football League after 7 seasons out of it. So look, it's a statement win, but we do have to know it is the Tamworth side who I thought they were quite poor. I was expecting a bit more resilience from
Well,
them, but
I was going to ask you in terms of Tamworth, like what they were about. Whether did you did I don't obviously I've not seen the highlights, but was it a case of you got a few like goals in quick succession and maybe they just crumbled under the pressure, or like, and also from a psychological point of view, how damaging could this be to the Tamworth unit? You know what I mean? Yes, they've not picked up many wins in the first 6 games, but we've actually said that they look probably the more resolute side out of Boston, Tamworth, them sort of teams on this podcast in previous weeks, and kind of that that sort of fear has been dispelled today by obviously a very dominant and very ruthless Barnet side. So how much of a negative impact psychologically do you think this might have on Tamworth?
I'm not too sure. I think it's one of those results where they probably didn't think they were going to get points out of the game, but you probably don't think you're going to lose 7-0 kind of situation. So look, it's a tough one. I think obviously if you're losing by a huge margin, it's going to be tough mentally on you because especially as a goal, I think goalkeeper that's the worst thing. If you're picking the ball up 7 times in 90 minutes, it's very degrading, and it's not something that you want to be doing every week. But I think Tamworth need to look at the bigger picture that this is going to be probably one of their toughest games all season. Going to Barnet, who, as a side last season, we didn't lose. I think we lost 3 games at home the whole of last season. So look, I think it's one of those where you just have to move on to the next game, and just see what happens for the rest of the season because we've seen that there's potential in this Tamworth team to stay in the division. It's just can they do it and replicate good home form, which I think will be key.
Yeah, and I guess the final thing I wanted to just say from a guy that I've not known really be a goal scoring midfielder, I think it's really interesting to see Mark Shelton coming in and kind of hitting the ground and adding goals to his game. I mean, obviously, I know we've got other games to focus on, but how impressed have you been with him with his start and especially adding the goals to his game when he's not really known for that, Shelts?
Yeah, I think he's slowly becoming one of my favourite Barnet players, which is a hard task within this team when you've got players like Nicky Kabamba, Zach Brunt, Callum Stead, Jerome Akimo. Like, it's tough, but no, I've been really impressed with Mark Shelton. And look, the goal he scored today, you watch it back, it's an unbelievable finish from outside the box on his right foot, just curls it past the goalkeeper. But look, Shelton's come in, and I think obviously Oldham fans sort of warned us that he might be half a world away with his performances. But look, I've been really impressed with Mark Shelton. I think he's a player that I think is going to be really important for us with the loss of Dale Gorman. I think
sorry.
that's something that will be really key.
Depending on when this gets released, some people might pick up on something Chris just said there. But moving on, yeah, I agree. I think Shelts is one of them to me. He got some serious criticism from Oldham fans, and I don't think that was ever justified to the point where it happened at times. I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't think he was fantastic for us. In fact, I think he was bang average. But I also am very aware of the amount of players that come to Latics can't deal with the pressure of playing in front of maybe 6,000-7,000 fans every week that haven't had promotion for so many years, and then going elsewhere and having the shackles off. And look, fair play to him, and I hope he continues this. But yeah, so let's move on now, and obviously that's an absolute statement opener for the podcast. But now this was what we put down as our joint game of the week, if I'm not mistaken, in the preview podcast. I think it was first and second going at it respectively at the Gateshead Athletic Stadium today, and it was Gateshead versus Eastleigh. Now this game, Chris, it had a bit of everything. It had goals, it had late goals, late drama, and a show of defiance and togetherness from a Gateshead side that are slowly, if they were playoff contenders at the start of the season, I think they have to be. I know it's only 6 games in, but I think they have to be spoken about potentially as title contenders, especially after a performance like this. So they went 1-0 up, bang on half time, and then Eastleigh through Scott Quigley pulled it back just after that hour mark to make it 1-1, and then disaster struck for Gateshead as Allen got a straight red card, and you're probably thinking at that point, Chris, aren't you probably thinking with the attacking prowess that that Eastleigh have in the ranks, like we spoke about in previous podcasts. You know, that man McCallum, Chris Maguire, you're probably fearing the worst a little bit for Gateshead, but they dug in, they frustrated their opponents, and they got their awards through a 90, I think it was 92nd minute winner through Story. Now, this, like I said, this could be career defining for Gateshead. I mean, we've seen the togetherness in awful conditions already this season through the injury to Greg Ollie, and now we're seeing it. You know, standing together, being defiant with a less man. How impressed are you with this performance?
Yeah, massively. Look, as we said in the preview show on Thursday, that this is going to be one of the games, first versus second. I know it's early days, but look, it was an interesting game. Obviously, with the red card, I think really made it a game with violent conduct even for Allen to be sent off, and then Quigley scored from the penalty spot. So making it 1-1 with about 25 minutes to go made it really interesting. And Gateshead digging deep to score and make it another win at home. But yeah, Gateshead have started strongly, as we say a lot, that we think they're one of the best footballing sides in the league. And look, they're proving it, and they're getting the results now. So
and the thing is, as well, which I think is important, we've not touched upon for a couple of weeks. We started off the podcast, the season, saying, you know, the ground sort of situation was uncertain, and we didn't know whether they'd be able to do anything with it. Well, it is understood now that Gateshead have fixed that issue, so nothing is stopping them from going up now, allegedly, from what we read last week. So I think that's big for them. That's really big, and like, I think this, this could be a big season for the Heat. I think obviously you've got other big teams that fancy themselves being around it. You know, Barnet, Eastleigh themselves, Sutton, Forest Green, Oldham, Rochdale. It's not going to be an easy ride for whoever gets this title, I don't think. But like, I think they've impressed me. They've impressed me because I've said it since they lost Mike Williamson a bit through last season. Normally, it takes a while for a new manager to implement a style of play, but Gateshead did it so well, bringing in his number 2 and giving the full-time keys to Rob Elliott, because then you know then, don't you? You know that the pattern of play is going to be set because he's been working under it for so long, and now I think we're seeing the rewards, aren't we? From an Eastleigh point of view, obviously there'll be a lot of Spitfire fans that are very disappointed with that result because, you know, extra man to lose. Yes, against probably one of the better sort of teams in the division, but extra man to lose, that is going to hurt. But I think from a Gateshead point of view, you've got to look a bit realistic. You know, this is your first loss of the season. Nobody really expects you to be up and around it, and this is just an off day at the office. Nothing more than that. Just definitely maybe an off day for Eastleigh.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And look, I think Eastleigh can be happy with the start that they've made to the season. 13 points from 6 games is above 2 points per game, which is really solid. And look, I think obviously you'll be disappointed like to go in the 63rd minute 1-1 with the extra man advantage. You want to be able to make the most of that.
Sorry, I've lost. This keeps happening every time I come on StreamYard at the minute, so I'll have to fix it when I get back to America. But my camera bops in and out for some reason at the minute. So for those that are watching on YouTube, I have lost camera for now, but you can hopefully still hear my audio, right? So
Yeah,
we should be good, and hopefully it bops back soon.
Yeah. So look, I think from an Eastleigh's perspective, it's you got to look at the bigger picture. You know, they're averaging really like 2.2 per game in terms of points, and they're scoring a lot of goals. But look, a disappointing afternoon probably in all that's all been said and done. But look, overall, a solid start to the season, and they'll just keep looking forward and try and get a playoff place.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Chris, are you a little bit jealous that you are not the only team to have seen 7 goals in a game this weekend with Barnet, especially? I know it's 7-0, so you're definitely not going to complain.
About 7-0.
But we've also seen an absolute humdinger 4-3 thriller between two shots at two sides that I didn't really see have this sort of result coming, if I'm being honest. I thought this was going to be pretty easy routine win for Aldershot, if I'm being honest. And Maidenhead have come and made it as tight as can be. And look, it looks like the shots have earned a very, very precious, well-earned 3 points there. But it ended 4-3 to the shots in the end this game. And it had a bit of everything in this game. So we had, I'm just having a look. That man, James Henry, continuing his absolute rich vein of form at the minute for Aldershot. I might be wrong, I think he's scored in maybe every game bar one for Aldershot.
Yeah.
So that is ridiculous. And then from there, it then went to, so it was 1-1 through Tristan Abrahams, and then Scott scored to put Aldershot back in front on the 57th minute. And then Tristan Abrahams was at it again in the 59th minute, getting his brace to make it 2-2. And then in the 62nd minute, it was 3-2 to Aldershot, thanks to Corbett. And then in the 78th minute, how are you pronouncing that name, Chris?
Loco.
Go
Loco.
Nice. So in the 78th minute, it was 3-3, and then no, sorry. Wait, have I got that right? Was it 4? No, it was 4-2, weren't it? Aldershot. Is that right?
When Loco scored, it was 4-3. So
4-3, yeah. So yeah, perfect. No, I mean it was 4-2 at the point that that Maidenhead pulled back the third goal. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, like an absolute humdinger, and I think the people inside that stadium, when it was 1-1 at halftime, they were probably thinking, "Oh, it's a bit of a chess game. It's probably going to be quite tight." And then the goals started raining in the second half, didn't they? Really?
Yeah. A point I'd really like to make is, like, last week I said Aldershot was a bit of a gung ho team, and there's going to be goals. So I'm just happy for my own pride that I know what I'm talking about with a 4-3 win. So which I'm happy for a point to be proven. But they've had 27 goals scored and conceded this season in 6 games, which is absolutely mental. So look, I think for Aldershot it's a good win, but like they're scoring so many goals, but it's if they can sustain it and try and clean up their defense a bit, and I think they'd be onto something really good. But yeah, Maidenhead probably disappointed again. Another 3 goals for them, making it 6 for the week. And to get 3 points, you probably expect you're going to get all 6 if you score 6
Yeah,
goals.
you would imagine so.
But no, I think Aldershot will be really happy with their start to the season, and look, they've looked strong as well, beating some good sides, and have sneaked into a playoff place after 6 games. So we'll be interested to see how they kick on in the next.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it just shows, again, I just want to touch upon having players like, like Kabamba, Glover, Henry, Norwood at this division. This division is becoming the norm now. But James Henry at National League level, we all thought would be ridiculous anyway. But what a start for that man, by the way, Chris.
Yeah, he's done unbelievable. I think, look, from the start he's made has been absolutely incredible. And he's a player that I thought would do well in the division, but he started really better than I expected. Again, a goal and an assist today to get 3 points for his side. So look, that's a really strong start from him, and he'll be happy with how he started his Aldershot career.
Yeah, perfect. So next up, we're actually bringing to you the game that literally, at time of recording, we literally started recording this podcast on the whistle. So it can't be any fresher than that, really. It was the Sutton versus Forest Green game, and we were expecting drama. We were expecting goals, but I think even by our standards, Chris, this one kind of took us by surprise. Would you agree? I mean, so looking at the scores on the doors as they came in, so it was that man Christian Deutsch again. absolute machine at this division. We just talked about some of the players in this division and the caliber of talent in this and technical ability in this division. And then we didn't mention him, which is a little bit crazy. So apologies, Christian, but you got another one for the season. And then it was looking, for all intensive purposes, that Forest Green were going to have the most comfortable, routine, professional 1-0 away performance against another promotion chasing side. But oh my God, were we wrong? Were we wrong? So, is it Civi? Civi? I'm going to say Civi.
I'll go.
I'm going to I'm going to go with Civi. So Civi from Sutton United scored in the 86th minute of play to send the home crowd absolutely doolally, we would imagine, Chris, right? And you'd be forgiven to be thinking, wow, that's a point rescued for Sutton. That's a point secured rather than 2 points dropped. Congratulations. But no, Forest Green had other ideas, and in the 89th minute, Charlie McCann scores to send the away end into Champagne Supernova football and secure a massive 3 points for Forest Green Rovers. Now, Chris, just looking ahead a little bit and trying to predict a little bit, how season defying do we think a result like this from two promotion teams is going to be in terms of helping Forest Green get out the division at the first attempt of asking?
Yeah, listen, that could be a massive result, and for Forest Green, that could be the difference between getting into a playoff eliminator and a playoff semi-final at home. So look, it's a massive result, and look, for Forest Green, I think they've started the season steadily. When we played them, they weren't strong at all. I thought they were quite poor, just with their approach, just sitting in, not really looking to win the game, maybe just get a draw out of it. But look, Forest Green, they've got an unbelievable team. You know, they've got Ben Tozer, won League Two last season, and he's won back-to-back promotions, and they look really strong. And I've been impressed by Forest Green in this game, but I think from a Sutton perspective, they'll be disappointed, especially to score so late on and then to concede late on is disappointing. But the overall, Forest Green will be very happy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that is a massive result for Forest Green because, like I said, I think it'll be two teams in contention for the playoff places this year. So to get sort of the one up so early on a divisional rival like that and a positional rival as well, I think is such a big result. So yeah, but now we are going to touch upon a team that, if I take my Oldham spectacles off, so far this season, I actually can't believe I'm going to say this. Maybe it's because I'm feeling good because I'm going on holiday tomorrow, so I'm a bit more positive. But I am super impressed with Rochdale's start to the season, Chris. And they went away to Yeovil on the bank holiday Monday and got a 90th minute winner there, and we thought, Jesus, that's a good result. But can they back it up against an informed Woking side who had come into this game winning the last 3 games, and you're thinking that could be a tough one. But by all accounts, looking at the stats and reading some of the reports, Rochdale absolutely swept Woking aside, if we're being honest. And yeah, so it was first of all, the scoring got opened up for with a brace from Cairo Mitchell. Now, I think this is vitally important from his confidence because he is a player that Rochdale rely on quite a lot, and he hasn't really started the season very well. So I think to get that sort of monkey off his back a little bit and get them 2 goals will give him big confidence. And then to wrap the game up, not to wrap the game up, to in the 60th minute. So Mitchell got his brace in the 5th and the 88th minute. So either end of the game, right? They are sort of the perfect times to score, in my opinion. But then you've got Henry scoring on the 60th minute for Rochdale to bring it a 2-0 cushion. So this was as routine as you're going to get from Rochdale, by the way. And a friend of the podcast and fellow journalist and Woking fan, Samuel Collier, said on his tweet that apparently Rochdale look a class outfit. And from what I've seen, for as much as it might hurt my ego, I have to agree. And I'm wondering whether Rochdale are going to go under a couple of radars this season, Chris. The only thing I would say is I'll make a prediction. Because Henry doesn't normally score normal goals for Rochdale. So obviously recording this so soon after the games have finished, we don't know, but I'd put good money on that Henry goal being a free kick of some regard from Henry, because he is an absolute free kick maestro at this division. But yeah, how impressed have you been with Rochdale's start?
Yeah, they've made a brilliant start to their second season back in the National League, and look, they've looked really good. I think Rochdale of 11 points from 6, just under 2 points per game, has been really good. And look, I think you've got to be happy with a 3-0 victory at home. And look, Cairo Mitchell, he had the master plan and has got 2 goals for himself. And look, he's looked so strong. Like, he scored many goals already this season. We're only 6 games in. So yeah, Rochdale really good. Woking, I was expecting Woking to be a bit more competitive in this game after winning their last 3, but it didn't happen. And look, I think that shows the quality of the Rochdale side. So it'll be interesting to see how they do this season.
And I think it's important to have perspective from a Woking persuasion as well, because yes, I seen Sam say that they got swept aside and it was really disappointing and they didn't really turn up. But also, Woking aren't in anybody's real top 7 predictions, if we're being honest. So they're going to have games like this, and I think they still have had a very, very solid start to the season, really, if I'm being honest. But yeah, what a result and what a weekend for Rochdale. So next up, and the final game before the break, we have Boston versus Yeovil. Now, this game we decided to put in the first half, not just because there was 4 goals, but also it seemed like a bit of a game with a bit of needle in it, Chris. And we love a bit of needle on this podcast. And there was 2 red cards shown in this game, one to each side. Now, the scoring started through McGavin getting the first of his brace for Yeovil in the 7th minute. And then in the 15th minute, Osborne hit back on terms for Boston, and you're thinking from a Boston point of view, oh great, we've got a foothold in the game now, and you're thinking, let's just settle and win ourselves into the game. But Richards had other ideas for Boston and got a straight red on the 17th minute of play. And whether you're at home or not against a Yeovil side that had already won 2 games in 5 already this season, that was going to be a tough task. And look, they just took the initiative from there, really. So before we knew it, Yeovil were back on top again through McGavin on the 37th minute. And then in the second half, 15 minutes from time, not Jake Young, deadline down the brain, sorry about that. Young for Yeovil Town got on the score sheet with 15 minutes to go, and really, if we're being honest, Boston just kind of let the results slide away with them, I guess. And then to sort of like cap on the sort of needle in the game, 1L got sent off in the 86th minute to cap it off. So let's just touch upon it. First of all, touch upon it from a Yeovil point of view, Chris, for me, in terms of getting back to winning ways after a disappointing result at home to Rochdale on Monday, as we've just spoke about. But then touch upon it a bit from the red card point of view and a bit of needle, and then from a Boston point of view, from having a good couple of results to then showing this sort of display. It's a bit disappointing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, Yeovil will be very happy to bounce back, and I think Yeovil, out of the 4 promoted sides, they've started the best, picking up 9 points from 6, which is a good return, I think, especially with the games they've sort of played. But look, I think it was important that they bounced back after what happened on Monday. And look, for Yeovil, it's about, for me, I've always said with Yeovil this season, try and get a mid-table finish and then push on next season to see what happens, because It's just hard when you're going up as well, just adapting to the division a little bit. But yeah, as you said, an ill-tempered affair with 2 red cards. I think from Boston, it's so stupid. Like 2 minutes after you score, do not do anything stupid, and you've only gone and probably lost the game for your team with a red card from Richards. And I think that's a bit like that's the thing. You got to be street smart in football sometimes, and to go and do that has really cost your team. That could be to be fair, that could be the difference between staying in the league and getting relegated. Like I know it's very early days, but these are things that will happen. The National League's so close, and they come down to tight margins. And from the Yeovil red card, I think that probably it's just a second yellow. It won't
Yeah, we
be
were
a
going to
one.
say it was 2 yellows, so we don't know what the sort of context behind that was.
Yeah, so I don't think that's too much of an issue, really. Look, you'll miss your one game, but I think the Boston red card is just reckless and stupid. So that's really disappointing. But yeah, Boston, since they beat York away, they've got 4 points from 6. Is that a good return? It's okay. They probably wanted a bit more. But look, they're only a point off the relegation zone at the moment. So they just need to stay within that probably 3 to 5 point mark. And I think they'll have hope for this season.
Yes, I agree. So it's that time of the podcast already where we are halfway through the game week. The halves of the podcast are normally evenly distributed, 6 games each. But before we actually get to the podcast, Chris, do we just want to talk about the weirdest event to probably happen today with the first postponement of the season coming at the end of August, which is bizarre in itself. But it wasn't a weather problem. It wasn't a like a bad pitch problem. It was the fact that Southend couldn't get to the Northwest on time because their train got cancelled. Now, to me, on my point of view, this is very irresponsible and quite reckless from Southend because, like we all said in our group chats, if you know you've got a game that far away from you, surely you book a hotel and stay overnight, or use your team coach. Every team has a team coach. Why are you using a train? I don't really understand it. Do you?
Listen, when that came out, I started laughing because I just found it ridiculous. And then I was like, what the hell is going on? First of all, how are you leaving Euston with the train system as it is? If anyone listens to this podcast goes to away games, you know how bad the train systems is. Like, it's just ridiculous. And to leave at 10:20 expecting, and they were going to be in Preston at 12:30, like 2.5 hours before kickoff. Like, I think it's just ridiculous. And you know it's embarrassing for Southend. Look, their fans say they're one of the biggest clubs in the league, but this is embarrassing. Like, I was just shocked. Like, it's such a non-leaguey thing to do, though, and it's not something I expect from a professional club in this league. But
yeah, you kind of expect it maybe sort of step 7, step 8, not step 5, really, if we're being honest, because there's so many people that expect, that there's been shouts that the National League level should be deemed as the 5th professional level in England. And for as good as the football is getting off the pitch, you've still got really sort of amateurish things like this happening off the pitch. And I think it's just one to keep an eye on. But before we get into the second half of the podcast, shall we let our listeners and viewers listen to our wonderful sponsors?
yes, enjoy them.
So we will be back in 2 minutes. So we are back from that little ad break. And next up, we are visiting our favourite, or one of our favourite teams here for multiple reasons on the National League Natter in York City. Now, they had on paper what was quite a tricky away day to navigate today against Dagenham and Redbridge. But if we're being honest, they come through with flying colours, and it was a nice, comfortable 2-0 win for York. And look, again, this game will probably get overshadowed with non-football related matters, but something that is quite funny. But we hope he is okay. By the way, we hope he's not feeling too bad. But I feel like we should mention this. There was 13 minutes added on at the end of this game, and at the start of that 13 minutes, it was 1-0 to York. So I'm sure York fans were pulling the hair out and thinking, "Oh yeah, we're in for a rough ride here, lots of pressure." But it didn't actually happen like that. They got a second goal in the 90th plus 13th minute, thanks to Ollie Pearce. But the reason there was so much added time, no, it wasn't an injury to a player. The linesman on one of the sides of the football pitch pulled his hamstring. So they had to delay the game for nearly 7 minutes, I believe it was, wasn't it, Chris? To
Yeah,
get
7 minutes in the
to
second
get
half.
the linesman some medical attention. So that's why there was so much time added on. And like I said, Ollie Pearce was thankful for that in the end. I imagine maybe that goal probably came on a counter attack with Dagenham and Redbridge pushing men forward. But his name is a shot. Lionel John Lewis also got in on the act of the goal scoring act, and he opened the scoring quite late in the game, Chris, right? It was in the 80th minute with 10 minutes to go. So Dagenham were probably thinking, to be fair, maybe they could have hung on to get a point. But obviously, with all that added time to be added on, it was always going to be hard for one of these teams to hold out, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah, as you said, really interesting game. Not every game in this league has a lino getting injured, but you know what? It was funny, but we do hope the lino is okay. But look, York, as I said in the prediction video, I was like, I think it's a tough away game, but York really have taken that away from us. And look, a 2-0 victory is a really strong result. And look, York's two star forwards, John Lewis and Ollie Pearce, making the difference between Dagenham. And look, as we've said on this podcast, York, I think they'll do well if the ownership can sort of stay quiet and let the manager and the playing team do what they want to do, because look, they're in sixth. They've started really well, 11 points from 6 games, and they look really strong. And probably from a Dagenham perspective, bit disappointing. I think old habits creeping in from last season is their sort of concern. I think that's what a lot of their fans have been saying. But look, 6 points from 6 games is okay, but I think Dagenham will need to push on in the future.
Yes, I agree. Well, like I said, it's one of them with York. We expect them to be probably where they are this year. Obviously, they didn't make it last year because of probably signing too many players at once, and obviously, Mr. Friend of the podcast at this point, Matt Ugler, doing Matt Ugler things at York last year. So it's nice to actually see it coming together on the pitch for them. So yeah. So next up, though, this is a game that I'm gonna spoil a little bit, and I'm gonna say, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, so I might leave myself with a bit of egg on my face here, but I think this game got me a good number of points in this week's predictions league between me and Lauren. So yeah, so it's Ebbsfleet at home to Halifax. Now, Ebbsfleet, I don't know how many times we can keep going on about Ebbsfleet's poor start to the season. They just barely survived last year, and many people thought maybe they shouldn't have survived. Maybe it was harsh on Bournemouth to go down in the end, but they did survive. But if we're being honest, Chris, they're not really showing much life of being able to do it again this year, are they? I don't think. Obviously, it's only 6 games in, but they currently boast a record of 6 games played, no games won, 1 game drawn, and 5 losses. They've scored 4 goals and conceded 14 already, which is joint most goals in the division conceded with Tamworth, who, to be fair to Tamworth, conceded 7 of them, 14 today. So when you put it like that for Ebbsfleet, it's really really drastic and stark, isn't it? I think, Chris. But from a Halifax point of view, now they are sitting on a pretty identical record: 6 games played, 2 games won, 2 games drawn, 2 games lost. And I think that's the best way we can describe Chris Milton and Halifax side. They are just they are consistently inconsistent. That's what I would probably say, you know. But yeah, like, what do you think of this side? First of all, how worried are you from an Ebbsfleet point of view that this horrible rut just keeps on going and going and going, and then can this sort of be a catalyst now for Halifax to find a little bit of consistency going ahead?
Yeah, I think for Ebbsfleet is bad. Like, the only team to not have a win in the National League, and they don't look like they don't look like a team that may bounce in and bounce back. They just look really poor. And when we played them a couple of weeks ago, we probably should have scored about 5 goals. But Ebbsfleet look like a poor side, and it's concerning. I think Danny Searle will be saying to himself, I'm out of time. Like, this could be one of those where he's really just, I don't know where it goes for Ebbsfleet from here. And I think he's going to really struggle. And I think, look, we don't want to talk about really managerial departments, but if I was going to put a bet on, I'd say he's probably the first that will be out the door, because I've already racked a -10 goal difference from 6 games, which isn't sustainable. And look, they're already 4 points adrift, so it's going to be, it's a tough start for them. But yeah, it's interesting to see. But from Halifax, I'll be, again, as you said earlier, they're so inconsistently good. 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats, but they bounce back from these difficult moments where they.
I feel like I don't want to throw you under the bus, but I feel like it's important to put out that Darren Searle no longer manages Ebbsfleet. He's actually the Hartlepool manager. But we will.
Google has lied to me.
He
on their website, it says he's the manager. So I'm sorry to Danny, but your website says he's the manager.
Unless there's 2 Sal's in the division, because I'm thinking. You're saying no. Darren. You're saying Danny Searle, but there's Hartlepool manager called Darren Searle.
Oh, I didn't know there was 2 under the bus there. I got my facts right.
Surely, if there is 2 Sal's in this division, surely they're related of some sort.
This is Searle, Danny Searle.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry. Yeah, so sorry, I've just completely thrown Chris under the bus there for no reason.
Yeah, I'll do my research for this podcast.
You're okay. Yeah. Continue, mate. Sorry.
I've survived. No, as I say, but yeah, Halifax are just a weird team. Like, they'll win these games, but then they'll win some, they'll lose some, they'll draw some. Like, it's just inconsistent, which won't get you into a playoff position. So yeah, probably. I think both teams will be very disappointed how they started the season.
Yeah, I have to agree. Definitely. Sorry about that confusion, guys, by the way. So next up, I want to talk about a local clash, a local derby, shall we call it, involving my boys in Greater Manchester with Alty versus Oldham Athletic. Now, this game, I nearly incriminated myself then. I heard this game was a very, very decent spectacle, a very good game of football, lots of chances from both sides, and there was almost half Oldham fans in the entire attendance. So that's that's really good local away support for the Oldham support, and I'm sure that away day was full of cigarettes and alcohol, Chris. And what I think. Are you okay?
Continue talking about the great Oldham Altrincham derby.
I think, first 20-25 minutes we were phenomenal. We got our goal through the main man, James Norwood, getting off the mark for the first time this season after being out for an injury before the Gateshead game, and it was quite an easy goal, really. Dan Gardner did wonderfully to square the ball across, beat the keeper already. He kind of sat the keeper down, then squared the ball across to Norwood, who literally had, honestly, Chris, I could score it. He literally had an empty net to go for. If he wouldn't have scored that, I would have been fuming. But then, as has been a little bit of a tale of our season so far, is we're not putting teams away when we probably should put our teams away, and we get the goal and we just stand off ever so slightly. And look, from the 35th minute onwards, Altrincham went into the half-time break 1-0 down, but they were probably, in that last 10-minute period of the game, by all accounts, they were probably the better side. And then the pattern of the second half continued, really. I mean, Alty came out. They obviously they were at home, so maybe they felt they had to put on a bit more of a show. They came out, and around about the 65th minute, I believe it was, Regan Linney got on the end of an Alex Newby free kick for Alty to level the scores. Now, this was a sort of a bolt up Alty's backside, especially the way we've been speaking about Alty this year. We've said that they're quite reliant on Chris Clark last year, not really have a lot creative, and even the commentators on the audio pass were saying that they were saying that they struggled to score goals this side. But after Regan Linney scored the header, Alty started taking the game to us, and in the end, I think a draw is probably a fair result. But the one thing I will say, 90 minutes clocks around, Chris, and there's the two biggest chances you've ever seen to win a game for either side in the 90 plus 4 minutes that follow. So the first one is Mike Fondop capitalises on a loose back pass from a defender to another defender, gets his body in the way, and he's gone one-on-one, like he streaks away from everyone else. He's gone one-on-one with Ethan Ross, and to be fair to Mikey, I don't think he put as much power in it as he probably should have done. I think if he tried to hit it with more power, it would have gone under his body. But in terms of a one-on-one situation, Mikey has to score that, but you also have to give credit to Ethan Ross for closing down the angle and making the save. And then up the other end, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Justin Amaluza who was he missed a gilt edge one-on-one for Alty in the last 30 seconds of the game. He was one-on-one with Matt Hudson and he just put it wide of the post. So either team could have won the game in the 90-minute spell, but I think overall, a fair reflection of the game from what I've heard and read was a 1-1 draw. But from an Oldham point of view now, I'm not getting worried because we're still only outside. We're still only outside the playoffs on goal difference, but we have played 6 games and drawn 3 of them now. Albeit we have only lost 1 game, which I'll just remind Chris, bring him down a peg or two, that Barnet have already lost 2 games. So I'm not too worried yet. I'm not too worried. But obviously, our fault last season was that we drew a lot of games that we probably should have won. So I just hope old habits aren't creeping in this early, really. But yeah, so what is your sort of thoughts and opinions on the game then, Chris?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting game. Look, I think with Oldham, I don't think they've made the best of starts. I sort of expected them to sort of be further up the table with, the start that they made. And look, to be outside the playoffs after 6 isn't really ideal for them. But look, I think a point is a okay result at a difficult game, especially a derby game. They're always cagey affairs and sometimes games of chess. But look, for Oldham, I think they just want to be. They would want to have had a bit more points at this stage of the season. And for Altrincham, I think it's a really good point. They've struggled this season, and we've said it countless times that we don't really think they're going to be up there this season. But we'd be happily proved wrong. But look, from an Altrincham perspective, they'll be happy with the point. But yeah, Oldham they've had a tough run. But look, I think they'll be happy with it.
Yeah, and I think obviously I think probably going forward now for Oldham, we've got one more what you would deem to be tough run, and then we've got a little bit of a run that we'd expect to win more than we draw. So obviously on Saturday, a week today, by the time we're recording this, we have Southend at home, which is going to be a tough test for sure. But look, I think that obviously when we're not playing our best, I'll still take the fact that we're picking up points on the road for sure. But moving on now, and this one again, I'm going to spoil because I know for a fact I got the perfect 3 points on predictions for this one. and it was Solihull versus Wealdstone that ended 1-1, Chris. And straight off the bat, like I said, we're doing this quite early, so we're not managed to watch a lot of highlights. But if I'm being honest, I think Wealdstone will definitely be the happier of the two sides with this result. I think the Moors would have probably expected to brush aside Wealdstone with quite a lot of ease, and it didn't really transpire that way. Obviously, Solihull went in at the break 1-0, thanks to Gale scoring in the 42nd minute. But then also, the Solihull team felt a bit sorry for Wealdstone because they decided not just to score in the correct goal. Alex Whitmore also decided to score an own goal to help the Stones get a vital vital point in what we deem to be a difficult season for Wealdstone. So yeah, Chris, what did you think of this encounter?
Yeah, speaking to our social media admin Callum, he's like to me after the game, how we've not won this game, how it was the most one-sided draw you'll ever see in football. So, look, speaking to him, I think Wealdstone will be buzzing with it. To get a point at Solihull side who've not really kicked on since what happened last season. I think it's maybe the ins and outs that have sort of hampered their kind of progress, but overall, I think it was a good point for Wealdstone, but Solihull, I still think they're just trying to get into their stride a bit in this division so far. Look, 8 points from 6 games isn't an awful return, but they want to be up into the playoffs again and try and go one step further at Wembley instead of just bottling it in the finals. That's what they do. But look, I think it will be an interesting sort of next couple games for Solihull to see if they can push on.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And to sort of end the run of games that we're talking about tonight, we are going to hit you with, unfortunately, a 0-0 result. And it was probably a very disappointing 0-0 result for one of these two teams in Hartlepool versus Braintree. Now, I would say it would be a disappointing result before the game, maybe for Hartlepool, especially considering how solid they've started this season. But they did get a red card in the 56th minute through, if you bear with me, through Luke Water. Sorry, not in the 56th minute, in the 34th minute through Luke Waterfall. So they're probably happy with the point in that regard. But really, you've got to be, if you've got any sort of aspirations of doing anything in this division, you've got to be dealing with the newly promoted sides, haven't you, Chris? Really, I mean, it could be the same old story this year for Hartlepool, really, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's obviously a disappointing result for Hartlepool, and maybe they'll be happy with the 10 men and still get a point out of the game. Obviously, they had to play 55 minutes with the extra man, but look, disappointing, I think, for Hartlepool because Braintree at home, you expect the team, if you want to be competing in the playoffs, to win that game. No disrespect to Braintree at all, but that's a game where you want to sort of step your mark on a little bit. And yeah, from a Hartlepool perspective, it's disappointing. But if you look on the other case, Braintree, it's a great draw. It's a good point. And look, they've got 6 points from their opening 6, which I think is a good return considering the games that they've had. They've played Oldham away, they've played Hartlepool away, they played Aldershot at home. They've had a really tough start to life back in the 5th tier, but they've really pushed on. And look, they've got a good points return so far. It's just if they can keep that up is what we'll have to find out. But no, I think they'll be happy.
Yeah, I agree. So to finish the podcast, as always, shall we find out who will be waking up and asking what the story with a bit of morning glory from our podium on National League Natter? So now heading into this segment, I have to make it aware that Chris wanted to do bronze, silver, and gold for a Barnet performance of 7-0. And I said to him, that's not how this one works, Sunshine. So
Haters gonna hate. See, if Oldham won 7-0, we'd get the full 11-man squad. But I'll stick with one player.
So So yeah, go on. I will give you the bronze and gold shout. So I'll just do silver this week. So if you want to take us away with bronze first.
So I will do bronze and silver. Bronze and gold, did you say? Sorry.
Yeah, bronze and gold.
Bronze and gold. Okay, that's fine. So in bronze shout, I'm gonna go for a man who I'm pretty sure is featured on our medal list since we've started this podcast, and it's gonna go to Regan Booty with 2 assists for Gateshead against Eastleigh, making Gateshead be top of the tree.
I've already got 2 last weekend as well. That's crazy. That
he's averaging about 2 assists per game, it seems. But no, I think definitely he deserves that spot.
Yes, and so for my silver shout this week, I think I have to give it to Mr. Cairo Mitchell of Rochdale, which again, somebody check if I'm feeling unwell. But to get a brace when there might have been question marks over his performances so far this season, I think we'll do him the world of good. And yeah, so he is my silver medalist for this week. Congratulations, Rochdale's Cairo Mitchell.
And for the gold medal, I don't think we can choose anybody else in this list. He absolutely rolled with it today, and it's going to be the man, the myth, the absolute legend, Zach Brunt. Hat-trick. 4 goals already this season. He's doing everything right. And look, I think we need to be careful in January because the EFL, they're going to want him after watching today's performance.
Yeah, are you worried? Are you sweating?
A little bit. I'll be honest, a little bit, yeah. Because he didn't really have much interest over the summer, and he's on. I'm pretty sure his contract will run. Maybe he's got a +1, so I think he'll be all right on contract. But I think if you're an EFL club, you want to sign a player. He's only young. I think he's 22, and he's absolutely flying. And the goals, when you watch the goals, you'll be impressed. But Zach Brunt winning gold, it won't be his last gold medal of the season. I promise you that.
Nice. I like that confidence. I like it a lot. Now, just to finish off, before we do the intro, now I know. So I've mentioned it enough times, but the next sort of 2, maybe 3 podcasts at National League Natter are going to be Aaronless, and for some of our viewers and listeners, they might be thinking, "Get in," but I think for Chris, he's telling me to don't go away, aren't you? Really, if I'm being honest, you're going to miss me, aren't you, Chris? Really,
mate, I'm going to be gutted. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself on my Saturdays/Sundays now without you. But look, we will manage. And look, I'm looking forward to the podcasts. We'll have the regular content will still be here. So I hope you enjoy.
So just to make it clear, so I am going away for a week. I am back on the 9th of September. So in the meantime, Chris and Lauren are going to be working together on there for the first time this season on National League Natter, and they are going to be pulling double shift for the preview and potentially the following review of the weekend's game, depending on how I'm feeling with jet lag. So that's just a little bit of admin that we needed to get out of the way. And now, if you excuse me, I'm off to go and win a lot of money in Vegas. So having that being said, we have been National League Natter. This has been the game week number 6 match review. Chris, say goodbye.
Goodbye, and I'll see you very soon, guys.
It's goodbye from me. And before we go, please don't forget to give us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Music and anywhere else you have seen listen to your podcast. And we will be back very soon here at the Natter. Goodbye and see you later.
Take care.